I'm wearing my alignment sticks not as a fashion statement by any means, but more as a tool to hopefully illustrate better the complex action that the hips play in a golf swing. After this, we're going to talk about the one way of moving the hips I advocate and I think is the best for you, and some of the more common errors that golfers of all abilities tend to make with their hips. Hey, this is Steve from HitItLonger.com, and I'm on a journey to hit longer, straighter shots. If that's you too, then you might consider subscribing to the channel. Watch some more videos after this. I do a lot of videos on driving and getting off the tee longer and straighter. I hope you'll come along with me. Okay, let's discuss why I look so silly. I'm wearing my alignment sticks, one in the front and one in the back today. Hopefully this will create a good visual for you to see how the hips should work in the Mike Austin pivot. Hopefully it'll give you some ideas whether or not you're an Austin disciple of some of the things you should do more of and some of the things you should do less of or try to avoid altogether. Okay, so first let me draw your attention to I got the golf balls on the ground here. So I've got a 12 o'clock golf ball. If I'm standing here in the center of a clock, I've got a 12 o'clock golf ball. Here I've got a 1 o'clock, and around here I've got an 11 o'clock golf ball. So it's starting to be the beginnings of a circle or a clock, and we're going to use these as reference points as we go, and hopefully the way I'm moving the hips is going to kind of sync up with this clock right here. Okay, let's look at the Austin pivot, especially the beginning of the pivot as you start to draw the club back. You'll see that as I set my right side under in the setup this way, and I kick the right knee in as I keep the left knee more straight, I'm starting at a little bit of a tilt upwards. And you can see my hips almost appear to open up just a few degrees too. Again, that's just the action of the kicking in of the right side. You see what that does to the hips. The hips should look like they're a tiny bit open and a tiny bit tilted upwards to the sky. But that's going to quickly reverse, you'll see, when start to pivot backwards, and I allow the pivot to start advancing my arm about to my right hip bone to where the club gets to 1 o'clock. So it's by this point you're going to start seeing the tilt and turn of the hips like this. So I'm about 30 degrees turned, or 1 hour on the clock, which would take my belly button or my belt buckle, which at the beginning was pointing at the 12 o'clock ball, and now it's pointing right at the 1 o'clock ball, and you can see I've got some tilt in my hips as well. It's probably also about an hour too. So it's pointing down at the ground just past the 11 o'clock ball towards the target line. So we have tilt and turn, possibly pretty similar amounts of about 30 degrees or 1 hour around the clock. Let's do that one more time. So there's my opening move. The club face is square to the arc, and you can see the tilt I've got going here. So as I wind the club up bigger and I start to wind my torso up bigger, the tilt won't really get much more, but you can see my entire spine and torso, including the hips and the chest, have opened up until now. I'm probably closer to 45 degrees in terms of the hips being open to their original angle. So now let's look at the journey back down into the ball again. So as I step back down onto my heel, return the left butt cheek back to the wall, and I'll get into this squat position. So I went from tilted and turned to the squat position here. You can see that some of the tilt is gone and some of the turn is gone. In fact, I'm kind of back to my neutral position again, level and perpendicular to the ball here, or parallel to the flight line. The only difference is from the setup is that now both of my knees are about equally flexed as I transition from one knee being straight to the other. So here we're in our first move down. Now as I continue to turn the chest and hips, you're going to see I'm also going to be tilting. So right about here at the ball, this is where I'd be at impact, right about here. Again, I've made a meaningful tilt and turn. You can see that my belt buckle is now pointing right at the 11 o'clock ball. And in terms of upwards angle, I've got some tilt now going upwards as well in these sticks. As I go through it, then you'll be able to see how as I turn away from you and my hips finish their journey of about 90 degrees through, my chest going 90, 100, 110 degrees through, that the sticks are going to then go from tilted, and they're going to end up pretty level again. Let me hit a couple for you with the 9-iron I've got, and I'll hit a couple drivers for you from a couple different angles to give you a little bit better sense of just a normal motion of a golf swing and what the sticks are going to be doing. Okay, let's try a 9-iron, just smooth. Okay, so that's a good shot at a target of 160 there. I was about 5 or 6 feet away from the cup on that one, a 169 iron, about 5 feet. So a really good shot. Hopefully my pivot was on par. Okay, now let's take a look at a couple of drives from a couple different angles, and we'll see what the stick is doing here. Hopefully equal measure of tilting and turning going back, definitely not staying level. Okay, good drive there. Right at 300 yards. Let's look at a slow-mo. Okay, welcome back to the Down the Line Angle. Looking at those slow-mo videos is kind of illuminating for me. I hope it was for you too. Very interesting to see the the plane of the hips kind of tilt, turn, and kind of stay on the same helicopter all the way through from the top of the swing down through the follow-through. It doesn't really wobble that much, doesn't it? It just kind of stays on a spin with the right side high, and then the left side gets high coming through. So that's more of the Austin way of doing things, as good as I can do it. Maybe you do it better.